In 1922, a man woke up from a coma and immediately started drawing blueprints for an iPad. He described nuclear weapons 20 years before they were invented, predicted Mars colonization to the exact year, spoke of floating cities and contact with alien life. His name was Paul Amadeus Dino. And for one terrifying year, his consciousness had been ripped from his body and thrown 2,000 years into the future. But here's what they don't want you to know. Everything he predicted has been coming true, and the most horrifying predictions are still ahead of us. This is the story of the man who saw our future, and why his diary was hidden for 50 years.
May 15th, 1921. Paul Dino collapses in his Swiss classroom mid-sentence. His students watch in horror as their teacher's eyes roll back and he crumples to the floor. The doctors can't explain it. No head trauma, no disease, no poison. Paul Dino's body is perfectly healthy, but his mind is gone. For 365 days, Paul Dino lies motionless in a hospital bed while his mother sits beside him, praying. She dies waiting for him to wake up. And then, on the exact anniversary of his collapse, Paul Dino opens his eyes. But the man who wakes up is not the same man who fell asleep.
The first thing Paul does when he wakes up is ask for paper. Not water, not food, paper. His hands shake as he draws. Rectangles with glowing screens, flying vehicles, weapons that split atoms. The nurses think he's lost his mind. But Paul knows exactly what he's drawing, because he's seen it all. He's lived it. The man who was once skeptical of religion now speaks to priests for hours. The teacher who loved ancient history now talks obsessively about the future. His friends barely recognize him. It's as if Paul Dino died in that coma and someone else woke up in his body. Someone who had seen the end of the world. Paul moves to Athens, hoping to escape the stares and whispers. But the visions follow him. He sits beneath the Parthenon, staring at tourists, and makes a chilling prediction. In 2,000 years, there will be no barriers around this place. They will have removed them all. A student named George Papahatsis befriends Paul. Slowly, Paul begins to reveal fragments of his experience, but he's terrified, because what he saw wasn't just the future. It was the end of everything we know. As tuberculosis ravages his body, Paul realizes he's running out of time. He must record what he saw before it's too late. So he writes, and what he writes will haunt you.
Paul's consciousness didn't just time travel, it was transplanted into another man's body in the year 3906. The man he inhabited was named Andreas Nordum. He had died in an accident, but future scientists had frozen his brain, and somehow Paul's consciousness took over. For 1 year, Paul lived in a world that makes our wildest science fiction look primitive. Cities that float in the sky, machines that read thoughts, human beings who had evolved beyond the need for greed or violence. But getting there required surviving hell. Paul learned that humanity faces 300 years of unimaginable suffering. Overpopulation, resource wars, and ultimately nuclear annihilation that wipes out most of the planet. Europe is completely destroyed. Only the Baltic and Scandinavian regions survive, which explains why the future humans spoke with an Anglo-Scandinavian accent. 22 million humans colonize Mars in 2124, just as Paul predicted. But a massive asteroid impact destroys the entire colony, every soul lost. The survivors on Earth retreat underground. For centuries, they're ruled by corrupt oligarchs, until finally, scientists and philosophers take control. By 3906, humanity has evolved into something barely recognizable. They work only 2 years of their lives. Money doesn't exist, and they possess a psychic ability called oversan, the ability to tap into universal consciousness. But here's the terrifying part. Paul discovered that this evolution isn't optional. It's triggered by an event called the Nebel birth, and everyone who experiences it initially dies from the psychic shock. Only the strongest minds survive to become the new species of human.
In Paul's original life, he had loved a woman named Anna. She was forced to marry another man and died young. Before they parted, she made him a promise. The next time we meet, I'll make you a crown of wildflowers. In 3906, Paul meets a woman named Sylvia. She doesn't love Andreas Nordum, but she's inexplicably drawn to Paul's consciousness inside his body. One day, they visit the exact spot where Paul and Anna had said goodbye 2,000 years earlier. Sylvia, without knowing the story, picks wildflowers and weaves them into a crown. "Put this on my head," she says, using the exact words Anna had spoken centuries before. Paul realizes that souls don't just reincarnate, they transcend time itself to fulfill their deepest promises. And in that moment of perfect love, Paul finally falls asleep and wakes up back in 1922. Paul dies in 1924, taking his incredible story with him. But he leaves behind a diary filled with impossible predictions. For 50 years, that diary sits hidden. Paul's student, George Papahatsis, has been sworn to secrecy. But in 1972, he finally publishes Paul's story. The response is immediate suppression. The diary is dismissed as fiction. The original documents mysteriously disappear. Paul's identity is questioned. But they can't suppress the truth. Paul's predictions keep coming true. He described iPads before electricity was common, predicted nuclear weapons before atoms were split, spoke of Mars colonization before rockets existed. Every detail matches, every timeline aligns, every impossible vision becomes inevitable reality.
Paul's diary doesn't just predict our technology, it predicts our doom. According to Paul, we're entering the most dangerous period in human history. The next 300 years will test whether our species survives or joins the countless civilizations that failed before us. The overpopulation crisis, the resource wars, the nuclear annihilation, the failed Mars colony, all of it is coming. But Paul also saw hope. He saw humanity evolving beyond its destructive nature. He saw a future where love transcends death and consciousness transcends time. The question is, are we strong enough to survive the transformation?
Was Paul Dino a time traveler, a prophet, or a man whose damaged brain created the most elaborate false memory in human history? The skeptics point to the missing documents, the convenient disappearances, the impossibility of it all. But they can't explain the predictions. They can't explain the precise timelines. They can't explain how a man in 1922 could envision technology that wouldn't exist for a century. Unless
Unless Paul really did see the future, unless consciousness really can transcend time, unless love really is strong enough to bring souls back together across millennia.
There's one prediction Paul made that we haven't reached yet. One event that will determine whether his vision comes true. According to Paul, in 2124, we will attempt to colonize Mars. 22 million people will make the journey, and an asteroid will destroy them all. But what if Paul wasn't just predicting the future? What if he was warning us? What if the man who saw the future was trying to save it? In 2124, we'll find out if Paul Amadeus Dino was a prophet, a madman, or humanity's greatest guardian angel. The future is coming, and Paul Dino has already seen how it ends. Time is not linear, love is not mortal, and the future is not fixed.